URL filtering in checkpoint firewalls. Now that we have our NAT configured, both the height NAT and static NAT, height NAT for our HQ site 1 and site 2 internal users, so that they can be able to access the public network, and static NAT in our DMZ. So now we can go ahead and implement a URL filtering. So we may have a company policy that internal users should not be able to access certain URLs or maybe URL categories. So for URL filtering to function, what we need to do is we need to activate the blades, the URL filtering blades on all three gateways. So I'm going to go and access my PMS from the smart console. So I already have accessed it. So I will go to the CPHQ first and right click edit. So right now, if you see, these are the blades that are unchecked right now. Only firewall blade is being checked. So what I need to do is I need to check the URL filtering blade, and I'm also going to go and check the application control blade here. I will not check the identity right now, but after this section we will go ahead and do the identity awareness, and we will integrate our gateways to our Active Directory and proceed on creating user objects, or and then we will allow, permit, or deny, or take implement different types of policies based on identity. So for right now, I'll check only these two. I'll say okay. I'll do the same for site 1 and site 2. Okay. And application URL. Okay. So I'll go ahead and publish and install this on all three gateways. And install. So while this is doing its job, let's go to the security policies. So we have previously created these three rules. The cleanup is the default one, and we created MGMT for our management traffic, and web server traffic for our web server, and internet traffic for all three sites to be able to access the public network or internet. So for URL filtering to function, what you need to do is you need to create inline layers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and create a new rule for management, and I would say new rule above. I'll call this MGMT. The source, I will select once again the management group, and destination same, because I already have added all these three gateways as well as my PMS in that group. So for the action, I would say inline layer. I will say new inline. Now here you see that you have firewall blade by default being selected, not the application and URL filtering or content awareness or mobile access. So I don't need these two blades for my management traffic. I'll leave it as it is, but I'll just name this inline, let's say MGMT. Okay. So when you create an inline layer, what happens is there is a default cleanup for that inline layer, which drops everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this and drag it above the cleanup rule. So now what happens is that whenever traffic comes into this, whenever traffic comes in, the traffic is being checked from top to bottom. So what happens is if a traffic is being matched, it will take an action, and whatever the action you have specified here. So what happens is right now, if traffic comes in, it will check it against the management, the MGMT inline layer. So what I have said is, if traffic comes in and if it's sourced from any one of these to any one of these destinations, go and check the inline layer. Do not take, no action is being taken there. So what happens is it goes, if I collapse it and come here, so the 1.1 rule, it the traffic is being checked against this rule. If there is a match to it, so then action would be accept, and if there is no match, it will get dropped. So if the traffic is not matched in these rules, so it goes to the second one. So what I'll do is I'll create a new rule above this one, above the web server traffic. I'll call this let's say DMZ, because this is my web server that is located in DMZ. And the source, once again, I would say anybody, and the destination I will say DMZ, DMZ web server. And for right now, I will not check any service and application, because this is just I'm making this an inline layer. So the traffic is not being checked on this one, so there is no action here that would be taken, like let's say accept, drop, or reset, etc. I'm just creating an inline layer for it. So new inline layer, and I'll call this, let's say, inline DMZ. And once again, I don't need any URL filtering or content awareness or mobile access here, so I'll say okay. So once again, there is a cleanup rule that drops everything that automatically is created. So I'll drag and drop it above the cleanup once again. So now if traffic from DMZ from outside that wants to come to my DMZ server, it would be checked against this one, and it would say, okay, if the source is anyone and wants to go to the DMZ, go to this rule. It would check it against this rule. If there is a match to it, okay, it's being accepted, the traffic is forwarded, and if it's not, then it is dropped. So I'll create the same for my internet traffic. I'll say a new rule above, and I'll call this, let's say, internet. For the source, I would say, let's say, internal networks, because all these networks are internal to me. And for the destination, I'll say any. And for the action, I would say inline layer, new layer, and I'll call this, let's say, inline internet, or let's say inline internet. But here, this is must for now, because I'll create a new rule above the internet traffic where I will block certain URLs. So I will have to check the application and URL filtering. So I don't need the content awareness right now, but anyways, I will check this. So okay, this is must. If you don't do this, then you cannot do URL filtering. So this content awareness is also being added. I don't need it right now. I'll uncheck this. So right now there's a cleanup rule once again created for this inline layer. What I will do is I will move this above the cleanup. I'll create a new rule above the internet traffic, new rule above, and I'll call this blocked URLs. URLs. For the source, I can say once again internal network. So I could say I can create a group where I will add all these three subnets into it, and then select it and add it here. In this case, let's go and proceed on adding them all one by one to give you a little sense. So I have these three subnets added, which are my HQ internal and Site1 and Site2 internal networks. For the destination, I would say any, because they can go to any URL. For the services and application, I would say I will add. If you click on this funnel, you can see these services and categories, application categories. So they are not shown right now here. So if you check them, you get more options here. You have around 7,508. If you update your gateways, you may get more here, more categories and applications. So now if I say, let's say the company policy says that you need to block let's say child abuse, you need to block the URLs that are under the child abuse category. So I'll select this one, let's say, or maybe let's say or maybe job search. In job search, or this category, job search category, should be blocked, like for instance all these indeed.com, let's say monster.com, etc. And let's say the company policy says that you need to block the search engine as well. So I'll say search and the search engine, I'll add this as well. Sorry, search engine should be here somewhere. This was job search engine. Yeah, search engine and portals, like let's say this is google.com or bing.com. They're basically under the search engine categories. So maybe the company policy also says that that pornography category should also be filtered or blocked, maybe. So I'll add this, and porn digger and pornography. So that's it. And for the action, what I will do is I will drop this. I'll uncheck the content, because I'm not doing anything. I'm not specifying anything under there, the content section. So what I will do is I'll log all these for all of them, for all the inline layers, for the cleanups, etc. and others. So log this. Yeah. So now what happens is, if I let's go and create an inline for this final cleanup. I'll create a new rule above the cleanup rule, and I'll call this final cleanup. And I'll say any source, any destination, go to the inline layer and inline final. So I'll say okay. So there is one cleanup rule that drops everything that so I don't need this. I'll delete this one, this final cleanup. I don't need this now. So I have four rules that has sub rules inside them. So what happens is, if traffic comes in, if it's management related traffic, it goes to the inline layer, checks 1.1. If there's a match, it accepts it. If there is no match, it drops it. And then if there is no match in this rule, then it goes to the next one, which is 2. And if traffic is sourced from any and it is towards the DMZ server. Then it goes to the 2.1 where I have and it checks it against this rule. If it matches, it is being allowed, and if there is no match, it drops it. So similarly, it goes to the third one. If there is no match, if the traffic comes from the sources from the inside and distant towards any destination, and if it matches under these categories, the URL is under these categories, it's being dropped. It will get dropped, and if it's under this rule, it would get allowed, and if there is no match, it will get dropped. And if you have no match in any one of these, rule 1, rule 2, rule 3, then what happens is your traffic would get dropped. So let's go ahead and publish and install this on all three gateways. I'll click install, publish and install. So the installation has succeeded. And now if we go to the clients from the HQ site internal and or site 1 or site 2, we should not be able to access these categories of URLs of the job search category of the search engine or pornography or child abuse. So if we go to any of the clients, let's go to Windows 7 or 10. If I go to Windows 7 here, if I try to first, let's give it a ping. If my ping is going to the public network, yeah, it's going, so that's good. So if I go to let's say, okay, Google is blocked here, I'm unable to reach the Google search engine. Or if I go to any of the job category that comes under job category section, I should also not be able. So let's say if I go to indeed.com, should not be able. If I go to monster.com or Glassdoor, etc., they should not work. But if I go to, let's say, checkpoint, let's say, I should be able to access the other URLs, other URL categories. So let's do the same from site 1 and site 2. Let's also try accessing it from Windows 10 PC and check if all of them are not able to access it. Let's say google.com. So Google is not working. If I go to cnn.com, it should work because I have not filtered or blocked the news category. So if I go to the client PC of site 1, so browse. If I go to, let's say, bing.com this time, I should not be able to browse it. And if I try to access, let's say, checkpoint, I should be able to browse it. So everything else is working except these categories from the child abuse, job search, or search engine or pornography. So if we come to the logs and monitor now, we should see that Bing was being filtered by site 1. Yeah, here. So if you see now, the origin was site 1, source was 192.168.1.2, and the access rule was blocked URL, and towards this destination you can get the details here as well. So site 1, the origin, and the application name was Bing. So the source was this IP address and destination was this IP address. It was from the internal zone towards the external zone, and the traffic was dropped due to access rule blocked URLs. So that's how you do URL filtering and checkpoint gateways. Thank you very much.